Hey everyone, welcome back to TalkEasy English. I'm so glad you're here because today we're going to dive deep into something every English learner struggles with. You understand English, you can read it, listen to it, maybe even think in English. But when it comes to speaking naturally, something just doesn't click. You know all the words, the grammar rules, you understand conversations perfectly, yet when you try to speak, it feels awkward, slow, or sometimes nothing comes out at all. And that's completely normal. Understanding English and speaking English are two very different skills. Listening and reading are passive skills. They involve receiving and processing information. Speaking is active. It requires selecting words, forming sentences, pronouncing them correctly, and doing all of that in real time. That's why so many learners can understand English perfectly, yet struggle to speak it naturally. Let's start by understanding why this happens. Speaking is not just about knowing words or grammar rules. It's about producing language, and producing language takes practice. Imagine watching a basketball game. You can understand every move, every strategy, every pass. You can predict plays perfectly. But when you step onto the court yourself, it's completely different. You have to coordinate your movements, make quick decisions, and react instantly. Producing English works the same way. Understanding is easy, producing is hard, and that's perfectly normal. One major obstacle is translation. Many learners translate from their native language. You might think, I want to eat food, and then try to arrange it correctly in English, word by word. By the time you finish, the conversation has moved on, and you've lost the flow. Translation slows you down and keeps you from speaking naturally. The solution is to think in English. Stop translating. Learn phrases as complete units. Phrases like I'm hungry or I want to go to the park should be stored in your brain as whole phrases, ready to speak naturally without thinking about grammar or vocabulary. Fear of mistakes is another reason learners hesitate. Many are afraid of saying something wrong or being judged, but mistakes are essential. Every native speaker made mistakes when learning English. Mistakes are proof that you're practicing, and practice is how you improve. Waiting to speak perfectly will keep you silent forever. Focus on communication, not perfection. If people understand you, that's success. Mistakes are part of the learning process. They help you grow. Daily speaking practice is key. Understanding English alone will never make you fluent. You need to speak every day, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes. Even if you're alone, talk to yourself. Describe your actions. Say, I'm making breakfast, I'm boiling water, I'm cutting vegetables, I'm putting on my shoes, I'm leaving the house. Doing this trains your brain to form sentences automatically. Over time, speaking becomes easier because your brain has practiced producing sentences in real time. Vocabulary recall is another problem. Many learners know words when reading or listening, but cannot recall them fast enough when speaking. The solution isn't to memorize thousands of words, but to focus on high-frequency words and phrases you can use every day. Phrases like, I think, I feel, in my opinion, that's interesting, and I would like, are extremely useful. Using them regularly allows you to form sentences quickly and naturally. For example, I think this movie is interesting, or I feel tired today, or in my opinion, learning English is fun, or that's interesting. Can you explain more? Or I would like to visit London someday. By repeating phrases like these daily, your brain begins to produce English automatically. Listening carefully is also important. When you watch videos, listen to podcasts, or watch movies, pay attention to how native speakers actually talk. Not textbook English, but real conversation. Notice small expressions, phrases, the rhythm, how they pause, how they emphasize words. Expressions like, what's up, I'm just chilling, no worries, sounds good, or I got you are very common. When you use these phrases naturally, your English starts sounding fluent and natural. Many learners make the mistake of speaking too fast. They think speaking quickly makes them sound fluent. In reality, speaking too fast often leads to mistakes and makes you less clear. Speaking slightly slower allows you to organize your thoughts, form sentences more clearly, and speak naturally. Natural speech is not about speed, it's about clarity and flow. Repetition is essential. Your brain needs to hear and produce phrases multiple times to store them as patterns. Patterns make speech automatic. Patterns make English flow naturally. Practicing common phrases repeatedly trains your brain to produce them effortlessly. Every day, describe your actions, thoughts, plans, and feelings. Narrate your life in English. Even 10 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Tell yourself, I'm going to the store. I will buy some bread. I will talk to the cashier. I will go home and cook dinner. I will call my friend after dinner. By narrating your life, you train your brain to form sentences automatically, producing English naturally without translating. Context matters. Learn phrases and words in context, not isolation. Context helps your brain remember how to use language naturally. Instead of memorizing by, use it in a full sentence, like I will buy some bread, I want to buy a new shirt, or she bought a gift for her friend. Learning language in context allows your brain to use it naturally in real conversations. Perfectionism can block you. Many learners wait until they can speak perfectly, and as a result, never speak. Focus on communication, not perfection. Focus on making yourself understood. Grammar will improve naturally over time as you speak more. Speaking is not about perfection, it's about being understood. Every mistake you make teaches your brain and helps you improve. Finally, flexibility is key. Flexibility in thinking and speaking allows you to adapt to real conversations. Don't get stuck on exact words or perfect grammar. Focus on expressing ideas. If you forget a word, use another. If a sentence isn't perfect, keep speaking. The more flexible you are, the more naturally you will speak. Natural English comes from being flexible, confident, and willing to communicate, even with mistakes. And that brings us to the end of what I want to cover in this first part. But here's the thing, speaking naturally is not something that stops here. In fact, the next part continues exactly where this leaves off. We'll go deeper into real-life examples, stories, and daily situations, showing you exactly how to apply everything we've talked about in real conversations and how to take your English from understanding to truly speaking naturally. That's what we'll explore in episode 2, picking up right from flexibility and carrying your English skills further into action, practice, and confidence. Flexibility is the key, but let me explain what that really means in real conversations. Imagine you're talking to someone and you suddenly forget a word. Instead of freezing or panicking, you naturally find another way to say the same thing. You adapt. You keep your sentence flowing. You might say, I was planning to buy some fruit. I mean, some snacks for breakfast. That little adjustment shows flexibility. Fluent speakers do this all the time without even thinking. And the good news is that you can train yourself to do the same thing. You can practice finding alternative words, alternative sentences, and alternative ways to express your thoughts. This skill is something many learners never focus on, yet it makes a huge difference between speaking stiffly and speaking naturally. Now let's talk about how your brain forms habits when speaking English. Your brain loves patterns. It learns by repetition and by association. When you practice English daily, even small amounts, your brain starts storing these patterns automatically. For example, if every morning you describe what you're doing in English, making breakfast, getting dressed, leaving the house, your brain begins to associate those actions with English words. Over time, forming sentences becomes almost automatic. You won't need to think carefully about grammar or translation anymore. Your English will start to flow naturally, just like it does when you talk in your native language. One of the most common mistakes I see learners make is trying to use complex grammar or rare words before they're ready. They think, if I don't use perfect sentences or advanced vocabulary, I won't sound fluent. The truth is, fluent English is not about perfection. It's about clarity, confidence, and consistency. You can express almost everything with simple words and correct pronunciation. The key is to get your ideas across. For example, saying, I need help is perfectly fine and natural. You don't need to say, I require assistance at this moment. People will understand you either way, and you'll feel more confident speaking. Let's dive a little deeper into natural sentence flow. When you speak, your sentences should connect naturally. Linking ideas makes you sound more fluent. Instead of saying, I like movies, I watch them every weekend, I eat popcorn, you could say, I like movies, and I watch them every weekend while eating popcorn. Notice how the ideas flow together. Linking your thoughts naturally is what makes speech sound human, not robotic. The more you practice connecting ideas this way, the easier speaking becomes. Another important point is pronunciation and rhythm. Even if your grammar and vocabulary are perfect, if your rhythm and intonation are unnatural, people might still find your English hard to follow. Pay attention to how native speakers emphasize words, where they pause, and how sentences rise and fall. For example, in the sentence, I can't believe this is happening, the emphasis naturally falls on can't and happening. Practicing the natural rise and fall of English sentences helps your speech feel alive and understandable. Now let's talk about confidence. Confidence is often overlooked, but it's just as important as grammar or vocabulary. Speaking English naturally requires trusting yourself. You might make mistakes, but that's okay. The more you practice, the more confident you become, and confidence directly impacts fluency. People who speak fluently don't speak perfectly, they speak with self-assurance. Confidence allows you to speak without overthinking every word. Real-life practice is crucial. Try to immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Talk to friends, online partners, or even yourself. Narrate your day, comment on what you see, or describe a situation. The more your brain associates English with real experiences, the more naturally you will speak. For example, while making breakfast, think in English, I'm cutting an apple. I'm pouring milk into a glass. I'm preparing coffee. Doing this daily trains your brain to produce sentences automatically. Listening and repeating is another powerful tool, not just passive listening, but actively paying attention, repeating phrases, imitating rhythm and intonation. When you listen to native speakers and repeat what they say, your mouth, ear, and brain all practice together. This process helps build fluency without memorizing grammar rules. Your brain starts to understand patterns and natural sentence structures. Let's expand on flexibility. Flexibility also means being able to switch topics naturally in conversation. In real life, conversations are unpredictable. Someone might ask, "How was your weekend?" And you need to answer while smoothly moving to another topic. You could say, "My weekend was good. I went hiking. Have you ever been to the mountains nearby?" Notice how the first sentence answers the question, the second adds personal information, and the third invites the listener to respond. That's how natural English works. Being able to link your ideas and react naturally is part of flexibility. Another aspect of fluency is storytelling. People love stories, and storytelling in English is a great way to practice speaking naturally. Start with small stories about your day, your experiences, or things you've seen. Focus on using simple sentences first, then gradually add details. For example, instead of saying, "I went to the store," you could expand, "Yesterday, I went to the store to buy some fruit. I saw a friend there and we talked about our weekend. Then I bought apples and bananas before going home." The key is to link events, use natural transitions, and speak at a comfortable pace. Repetition and practice make storytelling easier. The first time, your sentences might be short or choppy. That's fine. Keep practicing. Each time you tell a story, add a little more detail, new vocabulary, or a small transition. Over time, your stories will flow naturally, and you'll notice you're speaking more confidently and fluidly. Daily routines, stories, and observations are all part of natural practice. The more you integrate English into your everyday life, the more automatic it becomes. Describe what you see around you, explain what you're thinking, or reflect on your feelings in English. Even small narrations, like "I saw a bird outside, it was singing beautifully," train your brain to speak naturally. Finally, remember that fluency is not instant. It is a gradual process built through repetition, practice, confidence, and flexibility. It's not about perfection. It's about being able to express yourself and be understood naturally. Keep speaking, keep narrating your life, keep practicing, and over time, your English will become more fluid, confident, and natural. If you enjoyed this episode and want more tips to speak English naturally, don't forget to subscribe to TalkEasy English so you never miss an episode. See you next time.